Good evening. Welcome to the Gaunt podcast. It's time to scrap the House of Lords. In fact, I'll go even further. We've got to abolish the whole corrupt, honest system. That's the only way we're going to get people power in this country. It's the only way to make things fairer. And I'll explain to you in this podcast, in the next half an hour, why it's so fundamental we get rid of the unelected so-called upper chamber. And I'll tell you something else. We don't need to replace it with an elected one. We've already got too many self-serving pigs in Westminster. It's time for the people to have their say. If you've got a view on this, let's get in touch with me now in the comment box, and we'll have the mother of all debates this evening here on the Gaunt podcast. Right, let's have your opinions. Good evening, Britain. It is Gaunty here, of course, and tonight I'm ripping the velvet curtains clean off the biggest, cushiest, most corrupt corner and private members club in Westminster. Yeah. I'm talking about the House of Lords. If you think MPs are self-serving pigs with their snouts in the trough, what about those doddery old lords who can't even keep awake when they're there? Did you know they pick up the best part of 350 quid just for getting to the House of Lords? It's just the same as Brussels used to be. They don't have to stay there. They then get the money. They just sign in. They're the biggest dole cheats in Britain, or benefits cheats, should I say. They're an unelected club of cronies, donors, failed politicians, abysmal bureaucrats, political pals of whoever was in charge when they were working, and they are rewarded with lifetime power, whilst ordinary Brits like you and I get absolutely sod all, except higher bills and broken promises. Why are you talking about the House of Lords today, Gaunty? Well, I tell you, there's been a massive row because Starmer's announced who he wants to give his peerages to, and so's Kemi. The only one I agreed with was Sharon Davis, the Olympic swimmer. But we'll go on to that in a moment. But Farage has kicked off this afternoon saying, hold on a minute, we haven't got any lords. Well, Starmer's not going to make anybody from Reform a lord, is he? To cause him grief. And the reason why he's appointed 61 new ones today, or whatever it is, I lost the will to live listening to it, is because he's stuffing the lords so he can get through his legislation. For example, he wants to get through the digital ID cards. He won't at the moment because he hasn't got enough peers. That's why he's putting some more in. But I'm saying it's the end of the peers show. This is not democratic. And it's not just the Labour Party who do this. The Tories do it as well. Whoever's in power gives a load of peerages to, as I said a moment ago, cronies, donors, failed politicians, people who have given them millions of pounds, and their political powers. It's a ridiculous system. I've been listening to GB News, and they've been having a really earnest debate about it, saying, oh, we need a second chamber, and we should be elected. Well, I used to believe that. But then when I thought it through, I thought, what the fuck do we need another chamber? There's 652 of them, or whatever it is, in the Commons. You might say you need a committee to have another look later down the line, but do we need to replicate what we've got in the lower house? It's nonsense. It's absolute errant nonsense. And don't get me on to the fact that bloody bishops are there. I know they don't vote, but what the hell are they doing there? And then we got rid of hereditary peers. There's still some there, but they haven't got the vote now, I think. But I would say patronage, saying, oh, you gave me 2 million quid for my election campaign or whatever it is, or you gave me some advice about such and such, I'm going to make you a lord. That's the same as the very fine line between corruption and hospitality. You know, when you take business people out because you want them to like whatever you're doing, it happens in business all the time. But there's a thin line, isn't there, between paying for them to go to the Grand Prix or have a prostitute or whatever you give them and corruption. In fact, in that case, not a thin line. It is corruption. Well, I'm saying it's the same in the House of Lords. These people are all trying to get whoever and it's not an attack on Starmer, whoever's in charge at the time, get their eye. So they get the peerage. And then by I know it's only for the lifetime of them, but once they've got it, it opens all the doors that they want. It's wrong. It's unfair. It's not equitable. It's totally, utterly outrageous and old hat. And now, Starmer and the rest of the political class at the moment, they're queuing up to hand out even more peerages, like sweeties or toys at a children's Christmas party. Not just Starmer. Ed fucking Davies got a list of who he wants to give them to. So has Kemi. One of hers is Sharon Davis. It's wrong. Sharon Davis, fair enough, great swimmer. But hasn't she been rewarded enough for that? Giving it to great sports people, I don't really get it. So I wouldn't just scrap the House of Lords, I'd scrap the whole system. Why does somebody who was the chief executive of some shit council like Coventry or something, why do they get a peerage? Or why do they get an OBE or an MBE or a knighthood? It's all wrong. And I'm not a socialist. I'm saying that their reward is the massive pensions they get, the fact that they did a good job. Ordinary people don't go to work thinking, oh, if I'm lucky, Keir Starmer might give me a peerage. I mean, there is an argument to say, you know, the cliche dinner lady or lollipop lady or lollipop man who's looked after little kids for 50 or 60 years deserves one, I guess. But couldn't we come up with a better system? Let's get rid of the OBEs, the MBEs, the knighthoods, the lords. Get rid of the whole bloody lot. And GB News, hang your head in shame. You're meant to be the alternative, and you're having this conversation, my old pal Martin Daubeny, about, oh, well, let's reform the second chamber. Bollocks! Let's scrap the second chamber. Let's just have the House of Commons. People who, like Tony Benn said all those years ago, people we know, people who we can sack. That's why he was against the EU. We don't want unelected people telling us what to do we? And if the MPs can't get the legislation right, what the hell are they doing in Parliament in the first place? And civil servants. I mean, that woman who we got rid of straight away, about 6 months into his premiership, Sue Reid, because they all hated her, she's a dame. How does that happen? Failed at her job, everybody hated her, she gets promoted. Lord Mandelson, another one. Friend of a nonce. He can have one as well. Do you see what I'm saying? And you know what? You're paying for it. And so we had that big discussion yesterday. If you haven't listened to yesterday's show, it was one of my best ever, in my opinion. I talked about the state of Coventry. I talked about the state of this country, about how can we rebuild? Because it seems to me we're on the precipice of almost anarchy. Well, overnight, I've been thinking about it. And one of the things you've got to reform is privilege, the House of Lords. I'm into meritocracy. Everybody should have an equal opportunity. If you work hard and you're good at what you do, of course you should get on. But I don't think that means you should get on the ermine gravy train and go to the House of Lords, which then means you become chairman or chairwoman of all these other companies and charities. It's just a big knobs merry-go-round. And then you invited them to Laura Kunsberg and question time. Why? Doesn't mean you know anything about the world. Do you see what I'm getting at? I just think the time has come to get rid of the whole bloody mess. And that does go on to the honours. Oh, and while I'm talking about honours, let's get rid of Sports Personality of the Year. Did you see that today? It's a trivial matter, but we'll talk about it at the same time. Sports Personality of the Year. First thing, is it's on the BBC. The BBC hasn't got any sport, has it? Have you seen who's nominated? It's 3 women. A woman, 2 women footballers. The goalie, who nobody had heard of until this World Cup, because everybody liked that other woman, Mary Earp or Wyatt Earp, whatever her name was. It's the one now from Warwickshire. Who else is it? It's a rugby union player. No, but not a man, a woman. Yeah, rugby union for women's good, but it's not a top sport, is it? It might be in a few years' time, but it's not yet. And then on the other side, they must have thought, oh, we better put some blokes in there as well. So there's 3 blokes. The BBC presented this on the telly at lunchtime. They only mentioned the 3 women, one of which I've forgotten. So that's bad of me, but I apologise. Then they went on. Then they said, oh, and then there's 3 men, as if it was an afterthought. One of them is Littler, the darts player. Well, he is surely going to win it, isn't he? He won the junior one last year. The man is, well, the boy is a remarkable talent. And then the golfers included as well. Well, he's just won every tournament you can win. So surely that comes above having one good tournament for the female rugby team or the female football team, doesn't it? Or have I got this wrong? And then the BBC, well, they don't really have any football. They don't have the golf anymore. They don't even, they have darts, one darts tournament. They don't have the rugby. Or maybe they have the women's rugby, because not the other rugby. That's on Apple or something, isn't it? You see what I'm getting at here? So, and what do they call it now? Spotify or Spotify. It's crap. It's rubbish. And it's just the way the BBC, because they're all part of this system, because don't forget, get a job in the BBC, you end up becoming a knob, if you're not one already. You get a peerage, you get all the other stuff that goes with it. The whole system is out of date, outmoded, and, dare I even say it, corrupt, right? So I'm scrapping Sports Personality of the Year. Do you agree with me? If anybody can remember, who's the 3rd woman who's been nominated? I've done the blokes. Who's the 3rd woman? It's gone out of my head. It will come back in a minute. So I'm asking the questions the establishment never talks about. Even GB News. Oh, do we need a second chamber? No. Why didn't you say no? But if you did that, most of their guests wouldn't be on it, would they? Because they're all MPs or lords. It's a gravy train. So I'm asking the questions the establishment don't touch. Should we scrap the Lords? Yes. If you want to just say yes, that's fine. Is the honours system rotten from the inside out? I say it is. There are certain jobs you get within civil service, within councils, within sports bodies. If you don't get a gong at the end of it, you think there's something wrong. Sorry, no, I'd get rid of it. Maybe we need to have medals for incredible achievement. I don't think playing rugby for women is an incredible achievement. I'm dreadfully sorry. It isn't. And no doubt I'll get shot down as a sexist. I don't think playing in goal and having one good tournament makes you Sports Personality of the Year. I don't. I think playing darts like the young boy does, that's a different issue altogether. Or being a brilliant golfer like Rory with a fantastic track record, then of course he should be nominated. It's all rubbish. And if we want to make a fairer Britain, we need to get rid of the House of Lords, knighthoods, OBEs, MBEs, and the rest of it. And if you behave yourselves, later in the programme, I'll tell you how I was offered an honour, didn't realise it, and basically turned it down by just being rude about it. I'll tell you about that later in the show. Let's see what you're saying as well tonight. If you want to make a comment, just get into the comments and I will take your views from there. Thank you very much indeed. Where should we start? Are you ready to start? Yes, let's get going. By the way, if you like my show, feel free to press the like button. You're a bit slow on that today, but if you can bash that, that helps. Not the bishop, the like button. And if you want to contribute, and I must say, people did last night after the show and towards the end of the show. That's very kind of you. Just click the $ and send me a super gift or sticker or whatever they're called. any amount of money that you want. The more the merrier. And also you can go to www.buymeacoffee.com. One person today on Buy Me a Coffee bought me 5. Todd. I want to say a big thank you to Todd. That's very kind of you. Right. If you want to do it, that's how you do it. Let's get the debate going. Greg Galvin, it's just to top up their pensions. I also don't understand why they all get a subsidised canteen and can smoke indoors. Greg, you are on my wavelength tonight, baby. Even worse is the ability to claim expenses without receipts. Well, that's the same as MPs. You're absolutely right. They have subsidised bars and cafes, which is why MPs are letting pubs, the length and breadth of the country, go to the wall. I saw that prick, Barry Gardner. He's a Labour MP. He's constantly on GB News. He's on there and he was saying, well, I think the pubs are complaining about nothing. The pubs have had it easy. The guy's never done a decent day's work in his life. The guy was involved in some kind of, and I'm putting it like this, corruption scandal with the Chinese. Bit of a takeaway, somebody said, £500,000. But he's on telly pontificating and telling pub landlords they don't deserve saving. And he said, well, pubs have changed. And he actually used this expression. I listened to it last night. He said, oh, this is Barry Gardner. He was an MP. He's not, and I don't think he's anymore Labour. He said, oh, it's because some people now, they like to get a tinny. Who, if they're not Australian and over the age of 20, uses the term tinny? They like to get a tinny and drink at home. The stupid, thick prick hasn't realised the reason they're drinking at home is because the lager effectively and the beer in supermarkets is so cheap because successive governments tax pubs at a different level. That's why pubs are dying. And it's books like Gardner that's the problem. Because we need pubs, because that's where political debate can happen. But they're letting them go to the wall. Have you seen loads of pubs now got stickers? No entry to Labour MPs, and good on them. I'm joining their campaign. Anyway, I've gone off the subject a little bit, but that's all part of it. But they don't understand. They've got subsidised bars and canteens. No closing hours. They can smoke indoors. You are absolutely correct, Greg Galvin. It's one rule for them and another rule for us. They are all self-serving pigs, so we certainly don't need a second chamber. Are you with me or against me? This is going to be a good show. David KT says, didn't Starmer once say he was going to abolish the House of Lords? Oh, yes, he did. When he got elected, and just before he got elected, he wanted to abolish a lot of it. Oh, you mean it's another U-turn? He's had more U-turns than Jeremy bloody Clarkson or Stig. The guy's a stinking hypocrite. Now he's in there. He wants the House of Lords. Why? Because if he doesn't go straight to the EU or the United, because that's the other place to go, the United Nations, he'll want to be in the House of Lords. It's just so corrupt. Sue me if you want. It's corrupt. The whole system. We don't need it. Are you with me or against me? Come on, let's have your views. There are two, to be honest, there are two reasons I haven't been listening. What's this, Greg? You just made a good point, and now you're making another point. 1 till 6 doesn't work when juggling a young family. No, I'll just organise everything around you. 2, when I do listen, you just wind me up, and I can't stand us not being able to change the leadership. Greg, get your arse out of your hands, right? This will wind you up. You can change things. And if you don't listen live, it's called the internet. So do you know what you can do, Greg? You can listen later. You can even pause it and rewind it. And you can send me a note on John Gaunt TV any time of day or night, and I'll answer when I read it. How about that, Greg? I'm sorry I can't do it exactly when you want it to be, but 6 o'clock is the best time for my audience, the rest of them. And it's a democracy here. Greg, I'll tell you what you can do. You can contribute some cash. How about that, Greg? There you are. Let's be mates. Let's not fall out. Steve Harris, John, bring him over. We're food. Anyway, what does that mean? That's like yesterday's debate. It's yesterday's debate. Oh, here we go. Another one. Greg Galvin's back. He's getting his money's worth, even though he hasn't contributed yet. Any MP or Lord that lives primary home within 50 miles should not get a second home or travel expenses. Well, I agree with you completely. Of course they shouldn't. But that's what happens. That's what happens. It's corrupt. If you fiddled your expenses like they fiddle their expenses, HMRC would have you. HMRC, let's go tax digital so they can make sure there's no tax fiddles going on. They should look a bit closer to home, shouldn't they? Her Majesty's Revenue and whatever it's called. Have a look at the House of Commons. Have a look at the House of Lords. Here's our American friend, Dale. That is trading for votes, surely. Yes, Dale. And that's exactly what I'm saying. What people do, they're the big corrupt thing within the Commons and the House of Lords. Somebody will be the Minister of Transport for about 3 minutes. And then when they leave, or they get the sack from that job because they're crap, they end up on the board of a health company or a transport company or whatever department they were in charge of. The whole thing stinks. Absolutely stinks. And they get rewarded for it. And then we're meant to bow and scrape and chug our forelocks for these idiots. I hope you realise I'm working my balls off here. It's not like everybody else says, oh, so we have a second chamber. That'll be their debate. Everything's so binary rather than thinking outside the box. This is the debate we need to have. Den Spinks, I want to see Starmer and his Labour government come crashing down. I think most of the country would celebrate. Well, is your special talent stating the bloody obvious, Den? Of course we would. I'm with you 100%. David KT says, just look at those who've been given knighthoods. Thank you. Den Spinks says the sooner the... No, sorry. Richard Pope says, Den Spinks, the sooner the better. Perry Costello says, John Gaunt, no. But also we should stop the Labour government seeding it with their cronies. Why do you want to keep the House of Lords, Perry? It isn't just Labour who do it. Every party does it. Nigel's moaning about it today, and I'm not having a go at him now. But when he becomes the Prime Minister, he'll do the same thing. It's wrong. It's just not necessary. We've got too much government in this country. We need flatter government, less taxation, smaller government, no taxation without representation, like the Americans say, of course. That's what we need, a flatter system. I'm surprised, Perry, you want to keep the House of Lords. JTD says scrap the monarchy. Well, of course, that has to come into the conversation. And I'm in favour of the monarchy, but I understand. And I must admit, my patience is wearing thin. Although I watch some other internet programmes and all they ever talk about is Harry and Meghan. I'm not interested. Are you? I just think, God, if that's how you've got to make a living, on you go. Not for me, thank you. Not for me. It should be Sports Achievement Award, but it's not. That's why Rory has always avoided it, says Greg Galvin. Galvin, you're having a lot of goes for somebody who hasn't contributed. Hey, thank you very much indeed. Kev Phillips 02 says, Gaunty is back. I am. Kevin Ralph says on YouTube, 100% agree. Hugh Jenkins says, isn't there over 800 of them already? You're talking about the House of Lords. I'm not sure exactly how many there are. I think you're probably right if you take into account the bishops. One is too many. There's no need for it. Can anybody tell me why you would need it? Kevin Phillips, are you trying to be funny? What do we think of Michael Stark? Now, for those of you who know, Michael Stark's the one I called a Nazi. He was in charge of children's homes in some godforsaken dump in London. And what do I think of him? I think the guy's a prick. Anyway, there you are. Was he just being given an honour? Tell me. That'd be well deserved. Anyway, I think I may be wrong, but I think the third woman was Diane Abbott for truffle hunting. Yeah, very funny. Who is the third person who's been put up for Sports Personality of the Year? It's the woman who plays in goal, not Wyatt Earp, the other one. It's the rugby player woman who's okay at the game, but it's basically touch rugby, isn't it? Women's rugby. And then it's somebody else. And I can't... Oh, it's that footballer. It's Chloe, whatever her name is, who does the little skip. Well, yeah, it was great when she scored that penalty and everyone was dead chuffed. But sports personality compared to Rory, compared to, is it Luke? Is that his name, the darts player? I think not. I think not. What's the betting that it's a diversity win then? And what's the betting it's one of the women? They said, oh, she's the world's best goalkeeper. the girl, the woman who's up for that, the world's best goalkeeper. It's like I was watching telly once and they said, oh, yeah, and to a little kid, yeah, and we've got an top England international, something like the most capped international. This little kid's really excited, this little boy, thinking, oh, it's Wayne Rooney, it's Gary Lineker. It was some woman. It's like, no. Just on that subject, have they dropped the female summarisers on the men's games now? Or are they still doing it? Don't get me wrong. I think Gabby you're brilliant. I think, what's her name? Claire Borden. She's a great presenter. I think Laura, whatever her name is, on TalkSport, who's now on ITV, great. As presenters, fine. But you cannot have somebody who's played women's football talking about men's football at the top level. You can't. I know Ian Wright will fall out with me for that, but that woman who's just gone mad at Joey Barton, he's a prick anyway, but there was some kind of validity in what he said, isn't there? Or are we just not allowed to say these things? Don't forget, later in the show, I'm going to tell you how I was offered an honour and turned it down like an idiot. Hannah Hampton. Ah, there we are. Chloe Kelly, or Cole Kelly, as you've written it. Ellie Kidden. She's a fucking household name, isn't she? She's the rugby player. Rory McIlroy. Oh, Lando Norris. She's another one. How can Lando Norris? Good luck to him. Did brilliantly. Loved it at the weekend. But how can he be nominated for Sports Personality of the Year? He's only just won something. And when it comes to personality, my desk has got more personality. He's got a lovely smile, and I wish him well. And I think it's brilliant that we've got another British champion. All the rest of it, fantastic. But he ain't a personality, is he? He isn't. Luke Littler, they all deserve to be. Oh, hang on. Let me finish this. Hannah Hampton, Cole Kelly, Chloe Kelly, Ellie Kiddoon, Rory McIlroy, Lando Norris, Luke Litter, all deserve to be on the list. Oh, this is from Graham Fletcher. He's a right lefty. He always takes the opposite view. You think all of them are personalities, do you? They've all done enough in sport and they're all on an equal basis. You an idiot. Now, then he says, Chloe Kelly scored the winning penalty. Yes, in a women's final. She did brilliantly. We love her. But no. Starmer is rotten to the core. He couldn't organise a pee-up in a brewery, but he's getting his own way to dictatorship. We need an election now. Yeah, but you see, the point you're missing, Ronnie, even if we had an election, the government would get in. They're all the same. They're part of the same class. That's what I'm kind of saying about the House of Lords. We have to change the system. We don't need the House of Lords. Just like I don't think we need... In Warwick, where I used to live, there's Warwick Town Council, there's Warwick District Council, there's Warwickshire County Council. What's the point? Why do we need all those bloody councils? Why can't just one council sort it? It's a bit like the BBC. When you go to a football game, right? And I know this is true. There'll be the local radio commentators there, and they're usually brilliant. In Coventry, they are fantastic. A guy called Robert Gurney, very good, with Oggy, their ex-goalie for the City. But then there's the same commentating team from, say, well, who were we playing the other night? Who did we play the other night when we should have won and we got robbed? I can't remember. But anyway, their local radio station there. Then Radio 5 Dead's there. And sometimes you got somebody from national radio, proper national radio, not Radio Youth Club. It's rubbish. Why do the BBC do this? Have you seen it on regional news? You go to the regional, there's been a dreadful murder. Let's go to so-and-so. And they go to a national correspondent. And then in the local news, they go to a local. Why can't the same person do both reports? I'll tell you why. Because they're living off the fat of the land. And it's the same with the Lords, the House of Lords and councils. And anybody who thinks, oh, yeah, we need all these councils. No, we don't. Let's have democratically elected mayors, which, of course, Starmer doesn't want us to have. Starmer's cancelling elections. He wants less accountability. It's disgusting. And it is leading us to a dictatorship. That part of what you've said, Ronnie, is absolutely correct. Suzanne Jones says he promised he'd abolish the House of Lords. Another manifesto lie. Yes, you are correct. He lies for Britain. Well, he actually lies for the EU, if we're being honest. Anyway, thank you very much for that. Ellie Kaduna, here we go. Our resident liberal, wet liberal flannel, Graham Fletcher, says Ellie Cadoon, captain of England's rugby team, is a brilliant player. Well, maybe she is at women's rugby. In fact, they're all very good at what they do. Yeah. But is she a personality? Is she a world superstar? If that's what that competition's meant to be for, which is why I say Lando Norris shouldn't be nominated this year. Luke Littler, you can't deny the kid is a genius at his sport. Revolutionized darts. Made the whole darts world, he's made himself $1 million as well, and good luck to him. Do you understand what I'm saying? Anyway, that's the side issue. I also want to talk about the House of Lords. And I want to talk about how the establishment class, they don't give a shit what you lot think. They just feather their own nests. When I say they are self-serving pigs with their snouts in the trough, I'm not wrong, am I? Travel first class everywhere. Get a flat in London. Get themselves a little rent boy or whatever whatever. They don't even put their receipts in. House of Lords, turn up. There's 300 nicker just for turning up. Mental. And we put up with it. We tolerate it. Meanwhile, we've got a cost of living crisis at the moment. And if the House of Lords went, would it make any difference? Well, of course it wouldn't. Of course it wouldn't. Well, we need a second chamber. No, we don't. Right. Anybody going to contribute some money tonight? Am I just here working for nothing? Please click the $sign if you'd like to donate. That'd be really useful. Or go to www.buymeacoffee.com/John Gaunt. But don't forget the most important thing, and the numbers have gone up overnight, is to subscribe to John Gaunt TV on YouTube. That way you get notified of every show that I'm doing. What day is it today? Is it Thursday? I'll probably do an extra one tomorrow. I'm not sure yet, but watch out for that. Steve in Leeds, evening, John. Should Littler be on there? Let's be honest, Phil Taylor, the greatest ever darts player, never won it. So should Luke really be there? And what about Rocket Ronnie, best snooker player? He's never won. Yeah, but he's been nominated. I don't know about Phil Taylor, whether he was nominated, and Phil Taylor's great. I've met him many times. Great darts player, you're right. But Luke Littler, I know it's early in his career at the moment, Stephen. I take on board what you're saying. He is a phenomenon. And I'm sorry, you cannot compare him to the woman who took the penalty. You can't. Or the goalkeeper, who everyone's forgotten, if we're being honest. Or the female rugby player. I'm sorry. You cannot compare it. You can't. And as I say, Sharon Davis has been given a damehood. And I think that's great, especially for all her work around the trans issue and women's sports. But I wish there was something else we could give her rather than that. Greg Gavin, I didn't ask you to change the time. Oh, don't start bleating, Graham. It's very unattractive in a man. I was just explaining why I've been absent. I've donated in the past. Thank you, Greg. I'm not having a... Greg, you do know my personality. Don't get upset if I just slag you off for a minute, all right? I don't mean anything by it. Career politics, and if you have donated, thank you very much. But now you've done it once, as I often say to my wife. Can you do it again? Career politician or lord should never be allowed. Must have real world experience. Exactly. Nigel Gordon and the post office inside Parliament. It's all free post. I bet all the family Christmas cards. Oh, I'll post them for you. Yeah. Thank you, Nigel. You cynic. The amount of paperwork I saw outside the House of Lords, it was a forest because they don't understand the internet. Not so green for the environment. You are absolutely right. Yeah, absolutely. It's all just a joke, isn't it? This is all just a joke. And we put up with it. Anybody want to comment on that? Well, I do want to tell you something. Hold on a minute. So, look, you need to smash that like button because I want to ram this debate right in the establishment's face. If you can share the stream, that's going to help me, of course. Let's get more voices and more people to listen, to watch and join in. And, of course, subscribe and hit the notification bell because I'm live and censored, and I want you to watch or hear me every time I'm in. Let's have your verdict on the Lords. Would you get rid of them? And then just for the side issue, for a bit of fun, we're talking about the BBC Sports Personality of the Year. I would scrap the programme completely, but at the moment, I saw the nominations today. I laughed my duck off. But it's the House of Lords, unelected, unaccountable, stuff full of cronies, donors, and absolute political failures. They get rewarded with a lifetime of power. Starmer and the establishment are handing out even more peerages, and of course, they're not playing fair. You might want to talk about this. They don't give anyone who supports reform a peerage. Why? Because they don't want reform to have any power. Tough titty, because reform are going to be the next government. But there we are. Where are we? Jim Garfield. John, do you remember when Lord Janner was due to attend court? It was argued he was too ill and he had dementia. It was found he'd continued to vote 203 times after this diagnosis and collected all those pounds. You're right, Jim. He was a disgusting person. That whole incident. What's that, Skippy? All of that. Just terrible. Just terrible. Although we had a bit of a laugh at it, didn't we? There we are. Greg Galvin. I've upset him, so I'm going to read out some of his things. Anyone who works the council gets way too much annual leave. Well, I won't argue with that on that one. And Graham Fletcher, our resident lefty, says, I'm not a lefty. And I'm in. And let's say he says, I'm no a lefty and in not an idiot. I recognise good players. Sports players. What language is that meant to be in, Graham? Would you like to rewrite it in English? Thank you. You're very intelligent. Simon G 5429. The Lords is supposed to hold back stupid governments. Not anymore. The system needs an overhaul to restore its functionality. No, it needs scrapping. An overhaul won't do anything. It will just become the same. Why do you need a second chamber? It's like, why do you need government? Why do you need somebody to tell you what you can and cannot do? How many bits of paper do I need to wipe my arse? You don't, do you? As you get older, you know how to do it. Well, most people, not Villa fans or Birmingham City fans, I know, but most people learn that skill. I just think we need less government, smaller government, less taxation, more representation. We want them to listen to us. They'll never give us a referendum on anything again, will they? Huh? Anyway, just a thought. I seen a looking like on the way home from work in Walsall bus station. Really dead. He's a brilliant player, but you wouldn't want to look like him, would you? Jim, good luck to him. Jim Garfield, he's just donated £4 on YouTube on a super sticker. Jim, you are brilliant. Thank you very much indeed. That's very kind of you. Greg Galvin, John, can you please apply to be on the Joe Rogan podcast? Oh, yeah. As the first person to be cancelled, he might like the story. He did say to the Father Ted creator that he wished he would have contacted him. I'd love to be on Joe Rogan. I think Joe Rogan is brilliant. But I'm a nobody, Mark. I'm a nobody. That ain't going to happen. But thank you. You could write to him and ask him, see what he says. I'd like to have a row with him, that's for sure, about certain things. Jackie Ward. Hello, Jackie. I can't understand why someone who's had a good day at work by scoring a penalty should be nominated for anything. Thank you, Jackie. Me and plenty of others are good at our jobs too. We don't get nominated for anything at all. Surely to be nominated, you have to be consistently good and actually excel at what you do. Well, yeah, me being a 3-time Sony Gold Award winner, I'd agree with that, Jackie. Gongs are given out like sweets. It's ridiculous. Jackie, you're my kind of girl. You really are. I agree with you. Thank you for that. Gaunt, I'd like to say well done to Sir Roger Daltrey on his knighthood. Well deserved after all the charity work he's done over the years. Has he just got one this time? I think it's interesting. The interesting thing about Roger Daltrey is I thought he was going to die. I want to die before whatever the song was. I don't know. He ended up advertising American Express. We all sell out, don't we? So you can't slag it off completely. So that's me done then. Looks like it's going to be an early night for me tonight. That's good news. Where are we up to? I always miss where the clock is. 40 minutes, that'll do you. Best part of 40 minutes. Thank you for watching. Thank you for joining in. If you want to write to me or keep the conversation going afterwards, don't forget the best way of doing that now is through John Gaunt TV on YouTube. There's like a chat thing, you can do that. Loads of people are getting in touch with there, or ideas for the show, or whatever you want to talk about. Let's do it there. Or if I've just wound you up, let's do it there. What else did I want to talk to you about? If you'd like to donate, please send a super sticker or whatever they're called here on YouTube. Very simple to do. Any donation is gratefully received, or you can go to buymeacoffee.com, buy me a coffee or a cold beer. That would be appreciated as well. I think they start off up. Oh, excuse me, I got hiccups. They start at a £5. I enjoyed that show. I wasn't sure what to talk about today, especially after yesterday, because yesterday, if you've not listened, you must go back and listen to it or watch it. I thought it was a cracking show. I think I've upset a lot of councillors in Coventry by calling it a shithole, but I'm sorry. I have to say it as I see it. I'm never going to change that. I really am not. David KT, I'm going to allow you to have your little say here, because he says, Tommy Hutchinson or Willie Carr were never put forward. Tommy Hutchinson was my hero, mate. But he don't deserve a medal. Oh, Stephen Lee says, don't forget your story about turning your ward down, Gaunty, unless I missed it. No, I haven't said it. I'll say it now. Sorry. Jackie Ward just sent me my 3 red hearts. So that means I know I can go. So you want to know, do you, Steve? Well, I used to be on the radio in Luton, and I was there for 5.5, 6 years. I loved it. It was some of the best radio I've ever created. But one of the things was there was a children's hospice being built, and I'm on air one morning, and one of our reporters, we had a phone call, I think, and they said, oh, all the windows in the hospice have been smashed. They had these purpose-built windows, cost a fortune. So the idea was when the kids, life-limited kids moved into the hospice, they could look through the windows, but nobody could look in. I don't know how it works, but anyway. And some yobbos, it was in the final fit up for the hospice, they wrecked the windows. So I sent a reporter out there, it was Toby or somebody, and he reported back in saying it was terrible, absolutely shocking. And he says they're all smashed. And I lost it. I completely lost it. I said, how could anyone smash up a hospice, especially for children when they're just doing it? And I really did lose it. Really, really. And then some unfortunate, I don't know if it was Graham, but it was somebody like Graham. And so there's always 2 sides to a story. I think he probably said something like, maybe these kids haven't got a youth club or something, or maybe they're disadvantaged. Fucking disadvantaged. I just went mad. Bear in mind, this is about 7:15 in the morning, right? There must have been cornflakes and Alpen flying all over the kitchens of Luton. Nobody went to work because I was listening to see if I'd get the sack as a result of it. I went crazy. And then I calmed down. I gave it about 10 minutes and we talked about some other stuff. And then so I got an idea. Let's raise the money for the windows. Oh, then we got the bloke on or the lady who was fundraising for the hospice. And bear in mind, people in Luton and the surrounding areas had donated their own hard-earned cash. They wanted this children's hospice. And anyway, so it goes on. And then people started ringing up saying, I'll donate money. So we got loads. In that first show, I think we got several £100, right? And then it just snowballed, literally snowballed. And we raised the money just through word of mouth to replace these windows. And I must admit, I thought I was going to get the sack, but I'll give the boss his due. The first thing he ever got right, I don't think he got anything right afterwards. He said, John, that was magic. He said it was totally unprofessional, totally yobbish, totally wrong, but just fucking brilliant radio. I said, that's just what I felt. I was so angry. How could anyone do anything to children, or especially children like that? Anyway, as it turned out, then a local businessman, a guy called Dennis Keach, which if you live in the Luton area, you'll know who he is. He was a massive industrialist around there and a brilliant bloke. And this woman phones up and said, can I speak to Mr. Gaunt? So I spoke to her, and her name was Beryl. I said, all right, Beryl, what do you want, love? I thought she was just one of the listeners. Mr. Keach would like to take you for lunch. Fair enough. Okay, so I met him, and I didn't know who he was. And he was the guy, he'd funded the main hospice a little bit, but he was going to fund most of the building of the children's hospice. Anonymously, no one really knew. Anyway, so Dennis, who sadly passed away a couple of years ago, he became like one of my best friends. That's the only way to describe it. And we used to go out for these lunches and he was an old industrialist, right? He left school at 14. He was born. He was the only thing I didn't like about it. He was an Arsenal fan because he was born right next to Highbury, right? And he was a real Cockney and not Cockney, had the London accent and all of that, right? All of that. Left school at 14, moved to, I hope the family don't mind me saying this, moved to Luton. His wife got a job in the hat factory because, do you know, that's why they're called the Hatters, Luton, because they used to make straw boaters and she used to pin the ribbons to the hats. They had no money whatsoever, right? But he was brilliant at engineering and he got a job in a factory in Luton. And basically, one day he was doing this on the line and he said, why don't we just change that process like this? I won't go into the boring details about it. And it saved, I think it was Vauxhall, millions, right? This is like back in the late 40s, 50s. And from that one idea, he then was taken more seriously. He was 14, right? And he built a business empire. And he owned, at one point, most of, I hope you're not getting bored. I hope you're enjoying this story because this is a real good story about a working class bloke. No education, zero education, but probably the most intelligent bloke or one of the most intelligent blokes I've ever met. And he wasn't articulate in the traditional sense, didn't have all the big words, but when he talked to you about something, he held you. It was as if he had your bollocks in his hand as he told you a story. He was a brilliant storyteller. So we used to go out for these lunches, right? And so he said to me, I really like what you did. Thank you very much indeed for doing that. How can I help you? I said, I don't need anything. That's fine. I said, that's just my job on the radio. Well, you're bloody good at it. You're brilliant. You're too good for Luton and all this kind of stuff. And I said, thank you, Dennis. So we used to go to these posh restaurants, right? It was the first time I'd ever seen a black American Express card. And he didn't have a wallet. He had a silver. I haven't got mine with me anymore. Mine's not silver. Mine's just a piece of plastic. But he put his cards in this long before people use cards most of the time. And then in his pocket, he had a silver kind of band, proper silver, that went around all his 20s and 50s that he had because he was still basically a working class kid, right? So he always had a pocket full of dosh. And then he had his platinum or black card. I can't remember what it was. But we used to go to these posh restaurants. We used to go to a place called the Luton Who, which is where the Queen spent her first night of her honeymoon after she got married. It's a big, you've probably seen it in loads of hotels. It's a setting. And then other great pubs and restaurants all over Bedfordshire. And he was so, by this time, of course, by the time I knew him, he was basically retired. He was Mr. Car Industry. And people in Luton and in Dunstable and in Bedfordshire, they adored him. He owned all these factories. And his proud boast was, I've never had a fucking strike, Gaunty, because I talked to them, right? He was just a proper old-fashioned industrialist, where immaculately dressed, right, in three-piece suits. He was just the best company. So we used to go out and we used to tell each other stories and jokes and lewd, ribald tales. You know what men are like? I don't think we're allowed to be like this anymore. Yeah, men. He was a man, and he was a man's man. Charming with women as well, but just a man, right? And he was, I suppose, the archetypal rough diamond. I loved him to bits. And then I must have known him 20 odd years because this was very early in my career. And yeah, as I say, tragically, he collapsed at the Luton Who. That's where he died. This place where we used to go for these lunches. And he introduced me to proper wine and great food. He educated me on lots of things like that. It was just great. Always remember for my anniversary, our anniversary, he said, where are you going for your anniversary? I said, I'll probably go have a steak somewhere. He said, no. I'll book you into. There was this really posh restaurant. It's still there. It's in near Marston Mortain in Bedfordshire. Beautiful, run by two blokes. Fantastic restaurant. He said, I'll send the driver. We got picked up. At the time I was living in Milton Keynes or somewhere. He sends his roller and his driver, and he's not being flash. He's being nice. He wants to do something because he loved me and he liked me and he adored Lisa. So we get picked up in this roller and taken to this restaurant. If anybody knows the name of the restaurant, St. Helena's, that's the name of the restaurant. Brilliant, right? So we go to this restaurant. In the back of the roller, there's a bottle of champagne or ice and all that. It's just the business. We're like film stars. I think Lisa liked me that day. And then we get there, we have this slap up me. Oh, it was just everything about it was brilliant. And then we got taken home in the car. And that's the kind of guy he was. I've got a friend like that at the moment who's extremely wealthy, working class guy, made it himself, right? And he's another one. He's got all the trappings, but he doesn't brag about it. It's hard to explain to people if you've never come across it. Anyway, so where was I up to? So Dennis, so that's something that happened. So, and Dennis had another mate who I can't name this guy for obvious reasons. You'll find out in a minute. But this guy had a position within the county when really Dennis should have had that position. Dennis, you talk about honours. This is what the honours system, I really fucking hate it about it. Dennis eventually got an OBE many years later. This man had created thousands of jobs in Dunstable and Bedford. He owned the Crayola factory. He owned the Hoover factory, the vacuum, whatever it was called. And he put 3 things in a Vauxhall car, which then also went into General Motors. I think the sum total of these 3 little items, but they ended up going in every General Motor in the world, was just under 10 quid. That's how he made these millions, literally millions. And he used to say to me, John, I'm thinking about doing this. After he'd done the hospice, he said, I'm thinking of funding this, thinking of funding that, but I don't want anyone to know. And he got quite embarrassed because with the hospice, it's now called Keach Hospice, Children's Hospice. He never wanted that. And he genuinely never wanted that. But they named it after him. But he did loads of other things. And he'd say to me, go and have a look at this and tell me whether you think I should put my money into it. I won't listen to you anyway. He said, but you go and have a look and then we'll have a lunch and a chat about it. And I'm not going to tell you what these things are, but I will say to you now, if you live in Luton and Dunstable, you've probably been touched by Dennis's money and you don't even realise it. The things he did to make that place better. And he had this one ambition. There used to be a thing called the Luton, if you're an older person, the Luton Girls Choir. They're on the telly. He's just going on about, I want to get it back together for my Shirley. I want to get it back together for Shirley. She's a singer and all that. And sometimes I think, Dennis, whatever you say. Yeah, I tried to humour him, which was wrong because, well, he was much more intelligent than me, right? Then I found out the Luton Girls Choir. Look it up. Google it. It was a massive thing on telly on Sunday night at the Palladium and all this. And his ambition was to get him back. And he said, but I've got this idea, John. I said, oh, yeah, what's that? I want to make it for Luton today. I said, how do you mean? He said, well, with ethnic people in it, Asian people in it as well. He said, can't just be like it used to be. That's the kind of man he was. That's multiculturalism. That's living together. That's working together. But if you'd met him, you'd think, oh, he's an old fart, white old fart. He bought Luton. That was the other thing he did. He was going to buy Luton Town. He got really close to doing it, and in the end, he gave up. He wanted me to front it. I said, I can't do that. I'm a Coventry supporter. He said, I'll pay you. I said, yeah, but no, Dennis. I'm Coventry. But I used to go to loads of Luton games with him. Nick Owen. We used to go in the Nick Owen suite. It's a porter cabin. Or the director's box, which was just a slightly bigger porter cabin. The Eric Morecambe suite. He was just this magic man. And I really wish I could tell you all the other things he funded. But, confidence. It comes down to, I got to trust. Anyway, so I used to go and look at things for him. And there were some great things. And I still see things happening in Luton and Bedfordshire. And I think, that's Dennis's money. I still think it's going on. Anyway, so he should have got knighted. And he never did. And I used to fume about this and say, fuck, why isn't Dennis getting it? You know what I mean? And then when I got to London and the rest of it, and I was mixing in certain circles, there was this other guy in Bedfordshire, a lovely guy as well, but not wealthy like Dennis. He ended up getting knighted. And we all went out to celebrate. Dennis was paying, of course. That's always the way it was. You know, Dennis would pay. And oh, that was the other great thing about him. He lived, I won't tell you where, but he lived in Luton. He never, ever moved out of Luton. Had a massive house, but it was in Luton because he loved Luton, even though he was from, as I say, Highbury, North London. I can't, you meet some people, I've met 2 or 3 people in my life who are just fucking brilliant. You know what I mean? Just, anyway. So, this other guy, he gave me a ticket. What was it for? It was Coventry versus Luton. I can't remember what it was, like a historical ticket or program or something. And then we got talking, and he says, "You know that work you did on the hospice?" I said, "What work on the hospice?" He says, "You know, it was you. If it wasn't for you, the windows wouldn't have got replaced." I said, "Well, that's bollocks." I said, because Dennis would have paid for them anyway. And Dennis said, "Well, I don't know." It pulled me in as well. He said, "I used to love you every morning. What total are we up to? What are we doing? Who are we slagging off about it? Who are we persuading to do things for us for nothing?" Because that's how it turned out. You know, I was like Nick Knowles on amphetamine speed, but not getting paid as much. But, you know, but it was just organic. It just happened. Anyway, where am I up to? So he said, "I thought that work was brilliant." And he said, "What do you think about the honours system?" And Dennis looked up from his claret, right, and stared at me. And I stared back at him. I said, "I think it's a load of fucking bollocks." And he went, "Oh," because this guy was very polite. He said, "Oh, okay then. Shall we get another bottle, Dennis?" Afterwards, when they all went, and me and Dennis used to all stay behind and have another few jars, or he used to like going to a pub afterwards. So he'd eat all this lovely food, and then he'd want to go and have a beer somewhere. Anyway, he says, "Has anybody ever told you?" I said, "What?" "You are a fucking idiot." I said, "Yeah, loads of times. You've called me that millions of times. Everyone says I'm an idiot." He says, "Do you know what his position is? And do you know what he was actually asking you?" He was asking you, if you were nominated for an honour, would you accept it? And you said, "I think it's all a load of fucking bollocks," or whatever I said. I said, "Well, that is what I think." He said, "But wouldn't you like to have a gong?" I said, "I've never thought about it, Dennis." I went home. I told Lisa about it, and she called me a fucking idiot as well. And I think I was going to get nominated for not a knighthood or something. Yeah, I don't know. What's the lowest thing you can get? Blue Peter Gold Badge or something. I don't. But this guy, and he was the man who did the nominations, so it would have happened. Not Sam Whitbread, if that's who you think it is. I used to have drinks with him and because Dennis was in with him as well. He's in with everybody. Who's the knob who lives at Woburn Abbey? He's dead now. The big lord. Anyway, so I've got off my story. So I could have got a gong. I used to always make that joke about, my mum's maiden name was Whitty, and I always say, if I wanted to really get on in radio, I should have got a job on Radio 5 and changed my name to John Whitty Gaunt. What do you think? Yeah. Never happened. Never happened. So that's my story. I could have had one. Do I regret it? I guess I do in a way. But anyway, that's my story for you. You've had the story. But Dennis Keach, he's one of those men in life who you meet. And he was like a mentor. He knew nothing about radio, apart from he listened to it. He'd listened for years and to different sorts of radio. But he was just inspirational. And basically said, whoever you are, from wherever you are, you can get on. As long as you got a pair of bollocks. He said, you got a pair of bollocks. He didn't mean be a man. He meant know what you want and then go for it. As I say, sadly, he passed away, maybe 3 years, I think, just after Christmas. I met loads of people. I met him. I met John Pilgrim when I went to Luton. I met some of the most inspirational people and people who've had such an influence on my life there. And next time I'll tell you about the hospice, because then So after we bought the windows, right, and we're talking like hundreds of thousands of pounds. I don't know how much money we raised exactly, but because Dennis also put money in as well. But then I got invited to the grand opening, right, of the hospice, and somebody said to me, "Yeah, we want you to come and have a look at it, the children's hospice." And my kids were little at the time, and I thought of going somewhere where children went to die, which is how I saw the hospice. It scared the hell out of me. I'll tell you more about it next time. But then by going, I learned that hospices aren't places of death. They're places of life. And that's why I'm so against assisted dying. And I'm so much against, the fact that hospices don't get funded. Do you know, it's about 10% of funding comes from central government, fifth largest economy in the world. It's people like Dennis. And it's not just people like Dennis. It's the little Irish lady down the Bedford Road who puts in part of her pension into the charity thing to buy those windows. That's community. And that's one thing I really learned when I was working at Luton. Have I bored the arse off you now? I do apologise. I don't even know where all that came from. But Dennis Keach, if you ever hear his name, he was a brilliant man. Brilliant man. Okay, that's me finished. That's a bit of a downer. Now, Dennis isn't around anymore, so if you'd like to donate, because I do need a few quid at the moment, go. You know where to go. I'll see you tomorrow sometime. It probably won't be at 6 because obviously it's Friday. So until then, make sure you join John Gaunt TV, and I shall see you very, very soon. And if you've got kids, back to the hospice idea, make sure you give them a kiss, give them a hug, hold them tight, and don't forget to tell them you love them. Sorry if I bored you. See you later.